Hello YouTubers, I'm about to say that because my little mates at work, Sam and Jack, would be disappointed if I didn't. What we're going to do today, I'm going to change the CV Gaiter or CV boot, whichever you want to call it, from my Suzuki Grand Vitara, old bank thing, 2005. They are a great help, these stretchy boots. There's a few different makes of them around. That's a Napa one. The one I've got for the Suzuki is a J&R one. I've used some of their drive shafts before. You can get all this stuff off eBay. You get a nice little kit with your stretchy boot and your clip to put it on with, and some grease and all the rest of it, CV grease, because obviously you need to clean the old grease off and put new in. There's a couple of ways of fitting these stretchy boots. You can use the traditional sort of tapered cone, which you grease up, or WD-40 or whatever, and literally force the CV boot over the thing to stretch it out and get it over the CV joint. All this is to avoid having to take the drive shaft right out of the car and knock CV joint apart. The other method,
turn it inside out.
Oh yeah, that's the other point to make. When you use the cone, as Dave's just pointed out, you need to turn the joint inside out. So when it pops over it, you can straighten it back out and it's all correct. The other tool we've got now is one of these pneumatic stretchers. This is, a fairly cheap one off eBay. I think it was about 50 quid, as it were. You pop your joint over and you can keep in the same way out. You're trying to just stretch the very end piece that goes over the drive shaft. You don't want to stretch more of this than necessary, because obviously it puts more strain on the tool. You push the button on the tool and it starts to stretch like that, and it'll stretch far enough. It'll keep doing it because
seems better.
You really only want to do it once. So it stretches over the joint, and then you can grease it all back up, put your clips on, and put your drive shaft and all that back in place, and put your hub back on, and the job's a good one. Yeah, we've had a little bit of fun getting this off. We had to resort to a bit of brutality with the chisel, and it did get a bit bent round there. So we've tapped it a bit square with a hammer, jemmy bars and all to lever it off. Why we've having a go at this job, because the CV Gaiter's split. We had a good look around at the car the other day before we took it for an MOT. Never noticed that, and unfortunately the MOT tester picked it up, so do the job and in for a retest. Right, this inner drive shaft coupling, if you like, is held on with 3 bolts, and obviously one of you needs to go out and turn the wheel while we undo the 3 bolts, and you've got to get them at the bottom to actually extract the bolts. Now there's the drive shaft free, and hopefully it'll come out with a hub at this point. Hang on, record. Right, as you can see, once we've twiddled the shaft around from inside and cleaned the grease off, you can see the circlip there, and hopefully, there we go, circuit there, there's the circlip. Carefully put in the box with all the bits. Right, now we're going to have an attempt to pull the shaft out. Gentle tap. There we go, out it comes.
It's a boy.
Who knows right shaft, as he says, it's a boy. So next step is to put the new CV rubber on, which I think we'll do in the back of the car. Right, well, we've cleaned all this up in here because it was really rusty with a rotary, what do you call it, wire brush and a 9-inch grinder. You can see where the Gaiter split. This is the new one, and what you've got to do with these, you can see the steps in them. The steps correspond to different size joints, so you have to cut off an appropriate one. It's definitely not going to be on the outside one, probably the next one in, or the one in after that. Yeah, so that's the next step. We're going to cut this one off, maybe clean that round a little bit more in there where the rust is, because obviously that's wet in if it doesn't seal down tightly.
Universal boot.
Yeah. So that's what it is with these stretchy boots. They tend to be universal. I mean, Dave's of the opinion these are better than a lot of standard boots because they are a high quality stretchy rubber. You know, they do seem to last quite well. Right, we've got the drive shaft and the CV all cleaned up now without getting any rusty crap in there. Used a bit of paper just to protect it. To be honest, considering the way that this shaft comes out of the car, because you undo those 3 bolts, it pulls out of the hub. The whole benefit of a stretchy boot is that ordinarily you've got to be knocking this joint off when it's in the car, or you've got to pull the shaft out of the gearbox and all that with your average front wheel drive car. So the stretchy boot's a lot easier because you can just do it with the drive shaft still fitted into the car but the hub off. But we'll still use the stretchy up because it's the one I got. Yeah, so that's about the strength of that one. Let's get the stretchy bit fitted now. Now we're gonna fit the stretchy boot on. Off we go, Dave. Yeah, that ring on these is a bit of a pain. Most CVs don't have those, do they?
I thought you went out wider than that just now.
Right, now we got up a bit further. Then off. And off it pulls. Easy when you know how, folks. Right, now we got to decide which
That's all right.
steps in the universal
That one there.
rubber bit. So it's probably the second one in by the look of it. So we're going to get the old Stanley knife on and cut that.
Put a clip on there now.
Obviously, the next step is to get the grease in the joint, Dave, isn't it? Got to grease that round first. Got the boot on now and it's greased up, and it's slipped down over the thing to the second step. So what we've always used here is an old pair of nail pullers that have been ground up a little bit to make them pinch nicely. I mean, you can buy proper tools for this, but I mean, needs must. So that's that one, and then the excess rubber is trimmed off tight, you know, round by the clip there. And we've got to put the other clip up at the top here and slide him down to where it kind of fits in. There's a groove there, that feels about right. So we've got to put the other short clip around there now, which is in my pocket. Right then, here it is all back together, trimmed round there. Oh, not the best job, but that'll do, don't touch anything. I didn't like the inner clip very much, so I put one of these good strong Thomas & Betts tie wraps that have got a stainless steel insert in there. They're really strong, they're good. So yeah, all ready to go back in the motor now. Right, we've got the drive shaft back in now. I'm just about to pinch up the 3 bolts that drive it. The circlip is back on the end of the spline shaft. That's the next thing to go on. And I'll turn the wheel to make them line up. Put the bolts back in on those. Put the cover back on. Tap that back on. When that's done, and that's about that. I think very shortly I'm going to be wanting some new brake discs for this one. Get a little bit thin and a little bit of ring of rust around it all, so that could be the next project. In point of fact, really, winding backwards, you don't need to take that cap off, you can leave that in place. Just undo those bolts and the spline drive comes off.
Okay.
It's easier withdrawing the
yeah. Well,
drive shaft.
can you just